Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we have essentially manage to continue exploring for the alternative version of this particular Aronosis Island by taking control of the forms of Tails for a bit, by simply able to actually obtaining the third Chaos Emerald, well, technically about for the fact that we need to find the last Tech Coco before we're able to actually get not one, but 3 Chaos Emeralds so far. So naturally speaking, we've only got about 4 more Chaos Emeralds to go, so it might take a bit while to actually just try to explore this particular new incarnation of the forms of Aronosis Islands, like I said before, because relatively speaking, though, it's about the fact that there's going to be a lot of stuff to do. And speaking of which, though, it's about the fact that we did somehow manage to take control of Sonic once again, in some cases myself, by able to actually tackle through the first of one of those very difficult tower segments that we did somehow manage to climb into, or to be more specifically, the Trial Towers. So, yeah, that is definitely a little bit more difficult than the forms of how it does it in Rora Islands, ever since during the forms within the base game, but even then though, and also we did somehow manage to tackle through one of the first trials, so either way though, we got there in the end, so that should be a pleasant surprise with the specific stuff worth noting for. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we need presumably speaking, we're about to tackle through the second tower to climb onto, which, oh boy, that will be something else entirely, especially concerning about for the fact that, like I said before, this is where the game starts to get tremendously difficult, assuming of course about for the fact that the game encourages you to actually tackle through one of those towers at a time. So relatively speaking, though, it's about for the fact that, well, unlike the forms of how it does it in Rora Island, and during the forms within a base game, that you can to actually tackle through whatever towers you want to go into. In here, though, you only have to go for one tower at a time, where the game tells you need to go into. So, but even then, though, yeah, wish me luck, I guess, especially concerning apart from the fact that this is still hard mode after all. So there might be some scenarios apart from the fact that there might be certain very difficult segments from time to time if you keep messing things up. Likely also, whatever you're trying to balance yourself for those thin platforms and what have you. So yeah, you probably get the idea how this is going. So, anyways, before we get on to the actual discussions for this particular point for this point, guys, I would like to introduce you to the actual special guest for this particular point. Originally, though, that it was supposed to be Jigglypuff, it was supposed to be the final guest special character for the sake of the forms that try to join in the Maxi Toys department, but technically speaking though, that does not seem to be the case at all, because recently we actually introduced ourselves with hello, I am Coco Bandicoot here, and I am from the Crash Bandicoot series. At least to be more specifically, I was first appeared in Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. Yes, exactly. Wait, how did you know I was expected to be appeared on that game? Well, the reason being for this point, Coco, is probably because I played not only the original PlayStation 1 version of Crash Bandicoot 2, it's Cortex Strikes Back, but also with the forms of a remake based off from, you know, Nintendo Switch version for the sake of the forms of the Insane Trilogy version, so... Oh, okay, I totally get ya. So, but even then though, I've heard so many good things about the forms of the Maxi Toys YouTube channel so far. Yeah, because recently though, it's apart from the fact that, well, oh jeez, that was close. By the way, what are you doing right here? Oh, I was trying to concentrate, just trying to actually balance myself for trying to get up to this godforsaken tower. Oh, is it going to be one of those difficult scenarios for this particular DLC, for what I've heard anyway? Because I know for a lot of people got a lot of frustration during the forms of this particular part, mainly because it does kind of remind me of something related to the Super Mario Sunshine obstacle challenges from time to time, except, well, you running in the speed of light, and also I've realized your capture card got a lot of glitches again. Yeah, I definitely need to fix that at some point. Mainly during the forms of on Wednesday or something like that. Because recently, today's date of course is the 9th of October today. In some cases in 2023 today. Naturally speaking though, it's about for the fact that, well, I don't suppose if you noticed, but back in during the forms of in 2009, specifically the UK version of Disney Pixar film Up, that apparently though, that particular film has came out for 14 years ago, since in the UK version I was talking about. So, even though despite the fact that the North American version already came out 14 years ago, so but even then though, because obviously they always attempt able to release that during the forms of summer seasons, whilst compared to the UK counterparts, they have to wait until specifically in the autumn season for some reason. Although, there's only a couple of film exceptions here and there, like for instance with Toy Story 3, Cars 2, which I'm probably not going to discuss on that, especially concerning apart from the fact that that was definitely the weakest Pixar movies ever made, especially concerning apart from the fact that nobody asked for that. Well, I can honestly agree, because obviously apart from the fact that, well, there are some good parts here and there, but apart from those side things though, it's just that, well, it just feels a bit, well, disorientating mess. Even especially concerning apart from the fact that despite the actual film is doing, you know, quite a success for some reason, well, unlike something related to the films of The Good Dinosaur, which it got box office bombs, and even especially noticeable with most Pixar films every nowadays, since and during the films have been locked down, like starting with, of course, Onward, all the way up to Lightyear, where basically those films just somehow bombed. Clearly because of quite noticeable reasons. For one, the launch of the Disney Plus services, and on top of all that stuff though, those films came out during the pandemic years, so likely also for 2020, 2021, and maybe a little bit in 2022, despite the fact that we've only got one Pixar movie to ever came out on a big screen during the films of 2022, that is of course Lightyear. So because of that though, yeah, you probably get the idea what I was talking about right here. So, also, if you couldn't tell already, about from the fact that this might actually be one of the shortest parts of the entire Let's Play of Sonic Frontier so far. For those of you probably wondering of the forms of the actual time length from the last stuff today, well, long story short though, is it's probably because thanks to Coco Bandicoot has already on about this, is that, well, obviously our capture card gets in this weird glitchy state. So, yeah, I'll definitely try to actually just try to fix that at some point and during that, you know, on Wednesday and stuff like that. Because at this point in time, it's about for the fact that until tomorrow anyway, that Luigi definitely needs to able to continue on with the forms of Luigi's Mansion. So, but even then, that's saying something, I guess. So, and also, I don't suppose if you noticed, Coco. Oh, what is that, Mr. What's your name exactly? My name is Sonic the Hedgehog, by the way, or if you can call me the Blue Blur, or if you want to call Blue Justice, well, obviously you'll feel right at home. By the way, Sonic, every time whenever I looked upon the actual videos of you commentating on certain things, why's that? Well, I have no idea why that you keep on saying not only yourself, but also with the Blue Blur and the Blue Justice, whatever that's supposed to be. Well, the reason being for this point, Coco Bandicoot, is most notably because we've been watching too much of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 live-action movie ever since in 2022, but I just can't help it for myself apart from the fact that I can able to call whatever alternative names I want to go for, so... But that's the way I like it, I suppose, so... But even then though, and also, that for those of you who want to be considered that I'm also able to join in with the Maxi Toys YouTube department, then by all means I can able to try to do that. Well, exactly, Coco, because you're just more than welcome to able to actually decide able to join in, so... Yeah, that's actually very nice of you, Mr. Sonic the Hedgehog, or if I like to call you the Blue Justice, if I want able to call you for that specific stuff, and by the way, you just keep on falling, didn't you? Well, that's the hard part about the forms of this particular DLC, and I think it's most notably because it'll just make things a little bit more ridiculously challenging, depending on what difficulty you select, either on easy, normal, or hard. I think I would say on hard, and especially noticeable on the extreme mode. My god, that would be something else entirely, so... which I don't think I can probably able to actually tackle through extreme mode, I must be honest here. Clearly because it does remind me of critical mode from the Kingdom Hearts games, presumably speaking, so yeah, I don't think I can able to actually tackle through extreme mode, I must be honest, so... But even then though, also, apart from the fact that I've noticed your overalls might look a bit familiar to me, because you are entirely based off from the likes of not only Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, but also with Crash Team Rumble. Oh, because you do recognize my specific outfit I'm wearing, including my special goggles on top of my head? Well, yes, exactly, because I haven't exactly played that much of Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time on the Switch, for some time. I think the reason being for this is because of this game in particular decides able to make me keep playing. And on top of that, enjoying at this point in time that it looks like we've only got about 8 more days to go until Sonic Superstars is about to be releasing for multiple platforms. So that's the reason why that I haven't exactly touched upon Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time for quite some time. So... oh yeah, because of how the fact you've just been busy playing through not only Sonic Frontiers, but also I've heard, apart from the fact that, well, this guy named Luigi decides able to tackle his own game called Luigi's Mansion. Well, the reason being for this point, Coco, is because obviously since that Luigi's Mansion 2 has finally get its re-release on the Nintendo Switch, which means no need for the actual like 3DS capture card modding or anything else like that, because for one, it'll be too expensive to able to buy it, and two, it might be felt a bit complicated for my liking. So because of that though, I'm very happy about the fact that Luigi's Mansion 2 is getting a console treatment as a port. So oh yeah, so that way you can able to actually potentially try to tackle for the rest of the entire Luigi's Mansion trilogy of all things. So yeah, that seems very hyped, all things considered. So, and I think something tells me apart from the fact they're about to be only tackled for those games during every single October. Yes, exactly, because Luigi's Mansion games always takes place in Halloween, you know? So, anywho though.
레진 단식 가르파 암디 레줌 디바이스 미간키토르 두엔드 다데나이 규엔 레딜 부에레 가이 규엔작 슈레.
Alright, so I'm about to tackle through the next trial, and this time what appears to be buddy forms of Snake's trial. So, this means I have to take down those guys within a very strict time limit, for I've heard anyway, so I have to take them on within 2 minutes. So, that could be quite of a challenge, especially because, obviously, just like the forms of how it does on the, you know, the previous trial, that basically though, I'm only got level 1 with all status you know, when it comes to forms of attack, defense, and you name the rest. So, anyway though, so yeah, let's talk about the forms of some other topics at this point today, is that, potentially speaking though, is about the fact that there is actually a specific Sega cancelled game that they did somehow brought it up, ever since in during forms of since the 30th of September, if what I found out anyway. That game is usually called Hyenas, which as a result it is Sega's loot shooter. And as it turns out, apart from the fact that the Hyenas game is officially cancelled, so out of nowhere. Despite the fact that it was potentially trying to get finalized, but all of a sudden we actually got ourselves a sudden cancellation of this upcoming first-person shooting game, or in some cases the first-person loot shooter. So I honestly have no idea why they just somehow cancelled that game. Yeah, I was thought about that for the same thing, Sonic, because, well, I almost assume about from the fact that they'll be pretty excited able to check out this new IP of any sort, but I just have no idea why they just somehow get suddenly cancelled until likely also for some time ago, so... Anyway, so I need to take down this last enemy. I don't think it's possible for me to able to take down this last enemy for about less than like 15 seconds left. So yeah, I think I'm also able to try this part again. So Oh boy, it's gonna be one of those difficult parts, I'm afraid, guys, aside from the fact that, well, I know what I'm doing, but it's just that I just have no words able to know how to pass this. So, yeah, there goes the failed attempt. So, yeah, let me try this again. Okay, so as it turns out, that I actually did the wrong technique when it comes to taking down those guys. So instead, what I'm gonna do is that I was able to create a side loop. Once it gets fully opened, basically I have to do double the punches and do a stomp, because otherwise, if you do that technique, as you saw, that way it'll deal so much damage. So as a result, yeah, I honestly have no idea why. It took me a couple of attempts in this particular thing off screen, by the way. So I just have no words to think about it, especially concerning apart from the fact that it doesn't tell me exactly what I'm supposed to do. So I mean, as a result, it feels kind of similar to me when I was trying to look upon certain colored gems from the likes of Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. So as a result though, it did took me a couple of hours to able to actually look upon guides in order to able to do this successfully. So, and trust me what I'm saying, this is apart from the fact that there's going to be a lot of times I have to use guides in order to able to actually look it up. Like, I just have no idea. If for those of you who have a first time experiencing this kind of stuff, then you might able to tend to have a lot of struggles. So, but even though, yeah, it kind of feels a bit baffling to me though. So, also I just really love the fact that I suppose that, Silver has mentioned about this ever since in his Let's Play of Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, which, by the way, that he did manage to tackle for that game. So we're now going to be moving on to Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. But, yeah. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, during the forms of the beginning portion of the Final Horizon DLC update, I just love the fact that Sage just calls Eggman Daddy. So, yeah, that's actually pretty cute and harmless at the same time. So, yeah, I honestly love that specific detail. It seems about the fact that it's almost like a family kind of solution or something, but I digress.
Da Jersey Garfa, Tauschken Bab, Da Baldrim Koko, Zaekta Dinsk Birunsa, Dem Leruras Vidal Biskle Guy.
Okay, so now we've done that particular trial, so now we're going to be moving on to the third trial tower, which has somehow now been active. So this means more climbing, so oh boy, I wonder how tough that can be, but then again though, it's just the way how the actual, the thing's structured. So, but even then, oh yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is that out of nowhere, not only do we get ourselves a new lineup of LEGO stuff entering at some point in the future, but also is about the fact that Fall Guys is actually getting yet another collaboration, but this time around it appears to be based off from Disney and Pixar. So, yeah, I'll get to that particular moment until for later. So, for now on though, let's just go ahead and keep on exploring around in this particular point. And exponentially we will be able to actually just try to figure something out for ourselves. And there's also another thing I want to classify for something about this as well, is that it looks like, apart from the fact that we're about to be getting yet another compilation game at some point by the end of this particular year, specifically, that is about to due out on the December the 8th, in this year in particular. Oh, what compilation game is it going to be this time? Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is, Coco. And that's what appears to be the physical version of Star Wars Hardridge Edition, or Hardridge Pack, I think is what it says anyway, which does manage to able to contain all of those Star Wars games into one pack, likely also for the sake of the forms of trying to able to not to buy them separately or something like that. So as a result, they do contain games like, obviously The Force Unleashed, and Republic, Commando, Episode 1 Racer, as well as Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, and Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, Knights of Old Republic, and Knights of the Old Republic 2. So, however though, keep in mind that the later two titles requires a digital download the whole thing will go and cost about $60 roughly dollars. So yeah, that's short something, I suppose. So yeah, it seems like it's a pretty good deal or something like that. I wouldn't exactly try to able to pick it up, mind you, because obviously we're still about to save up for the last two first-party Nintendo Switch titles, which is of course WarioWare Move It and of course Super Mario RPG. Which, by the way, I was about to be planning to able to actually pre-order those last two things until specifically this Friday coming up. Well, mind you, speaking of Friday though, unfortunately though, for this year's Friday though, for October anyway, well, to be more specifically, on the 13th of October, it seems that we're about to come across into Friday the 13th, so, oh boy. Oh, what's so bad about that day? Well, the thing is because it will comes across to the point that you might able to actually come towards the, you know what I'm saying, bad luck situations, especially concerning apart from the fact that if you think you're about to be doing pretty well during the forms of some scenarios, but next you knows is that when Friday the 13th roll around, then you might come across into very bad luck moments. So, oh, that's definitely not a good sign. Oh, and another thing I want to address something about this as well, is that recently as well, that Bandai Namco Entertainment has fulfilled a trademark for Sparking Zero on the September 26th in the United States. So, and that particular caption of that particular text looks a bit familiar to me because it's actually known as the Japanese version of Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi games, because obviously they mentioned sparking, so as a result they did somehow manage able to realize, apart from the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, they did somehow manage able to cap it off in the past games of Budokai Tenkaichi games, like for instance in the Japanese version of, well, usually relatively speaking though, is that they did state this, is that the Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi series is known as the Dragon Ball Z Sparking series in Japan. Like, for example, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi became Dragon Ball Z Sparking in Japan, and then meanwhile in Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2 became Dragon Ball Z Sparking Neo, which was out obviously in Japan, of course. And of course, Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3 did eventually became Dragon Ball Z Sparking Meteor, so, which of course that usually happens in Japan as well. So, and apparently it's gonna cause it Sparking Zero for the upcoming title. So I'm actually very curious to know what that's gonna be all about, of what the English version is going to translate into. It could be either be Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 0 or Budokai Tenkaichi 4 as what most fans wanted. Especially because, you know, it's been a very long time since we actually last got ourselves the Budokai Tenkaichi games. At least ever since in likely also from other games in particular. Well, I'm not exactly sure of how can I usually describe about all that stuff though, because keep this in mind, that it's been about 3 days ago since we've last played this game for sure, because obviously, like we said this before, is that recently we've now completed Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest, and as a result we're now going to be moving on to Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse for the Nintendo Entertainment System. So yeah, which pretty much leads us to the final installment of the Castlevania trilogy of games released on the NES, before we move on to the forms of, you know, the last two games currently, for the sake of the forms of after finishing Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, which are Super Castlevania 4 and Castlevania Bloodlines, aka Castlevania A New Generation for those of you who lived in Europe. So, either way though, yeah, by the way, something's worth knowing for, how come it did say A New Generation instead of Bloodlines? Well, I think, relatively speaking though, I think it's probably best if we let some toy sales were able to mention more about it whenever they get around onto the forms of Castlevania Bloodlines for the Sega Mega Drive / Sega Genesis. Well, mind you, we're playing those games currently for the Anniversary Collection, and also worth noting for we attempt able to not only play the Castlevania games, but also, as I stated this before, Luigi's gonna be tackling through the original Luigi's Mansion for the time being, because obviously we're currently onto the the 10th month, as you probably already know. Oh yeah, because I did obviously check my calendar quickly, so either way. Also, did you believe, apart from the fact that The Simpsons is now on to season 35 now? Like, seriously, that's gone wild, that is. Especially, not only do we able to already got one of the episodes, but also yet another episode has recently came out since, I would say, since yesterday. Likely also Homer's Crossing and a mid-childhood dream, night's dream. So, that's as far as I can think about it. And then the other 2 episodes are definitely coming, which are Mac Mansion and Wife and Treehouse of Horror 34. Jeez, we're going into 34 installments at this point in time for the sake of the Forms of the Treehouse of Horror episodes. Like, seriously, that's seriously got a bit too much for my liking. But apart from those side of things, though, is that recently, me and Silver decided able to watch the Treehouse of Horror. Let's just say, the Treehouse of Horror, well, as far as I'm aware, we did already manage able to caught up with, 12 installments for the sake of the Treehouse of Horror episodes, so I think we're now moving on to, number 13 all the way up to 16. So, yeah, it seems pretty crazy, kind of thinking about it. Also, we've recently watched Loki Season 2, the first episode, which, don't worry, we're not going to spoil things too much, but I'm going to say, it's nice to be back on the Forms of the Loki series after the events of the first season of Loki, so... Oh, and talking of which though, when it comes to the upcoming episodes without any scheduled air date, they did confirm some episodes of Season 35 for The Simpsons already, which there are. It's a Plentiful Life, and as well as First Trap, I think it's what it says anyway, a Cooperate love story, and also Iron March, and also Do the Wrong Thing, and Old Bonnie Romance, and Frankenstein's Monster, Murder, She Wrote, and finally Lisa Gets an F1. So, not exactly sure what those episodes are going to be like, because mind you that I have managed able to check out the TV guide during the Forms of It the other day, but it seems kind of strange they never seemed able to release the majority of the Forms of Season 34 on Disney Plus so far. I'm guessing because of space limitations or something like that? Well, apart from the fact that for one thing in mind, that next week is going to be the release of Once Upon a Studio, which I'm still very curious to check it out, especially concerning it for the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I was just aware of how the fact that that's how you're able to treat a nice little celebration, as opposed to, like, bringing so many pointless live-action movies over and over and over again. Like, seriously, that's getting old a bit too fast, don't you think? Well, as far as I've heard for this point, Sonic, that, yeah, most of them are just, like, not as great as it used to be, especially concerning it's all obviously going to go downhill for the sake of time, so, yeah, I can totally understand that. So, oh, do you know what's the most insane part about the forms of the most recent articles for one of those games in particular called Borderlands 3 for the Switch version? You never believe, apart from the fact that it did able to actually got the physical copy, which obviously that does became a thing, but you know how much gigabytes you do need able to utilize if you get the physical version of Borderlands 3 for the Nintendo Switch. Sorry, I can't speak today for this point, folks, because even then, again, it's been a very long while since I actually have last played this. But anyway, what are you about to be saying? It actually requires 62 gigabytes for Borderlands 3 for the Switch version physical copy. Jesus Louise, why? Well, God knows. Unless if you have the OLED Switch model, you should be okay. But when it comes to regular Switch that we still got, it's not going to be quite likely going to able to actually get a download. So, especially concerning it also features the Ultimate Edition as well. So, yeah, it seems pretty maddening, don't you think? Yeah, I honestly do agree. It is seriously maddening. So, anyways though, let's talk about the forms of the other 2 topics I would like to point out. As I mentioned this briefly for about a few moments ago, Yeah, it looks like that Animal Crossing is getting a Lego set. So, yeah, that seems to come out of nowhere. And on top of that, we're about to be getting a Fall Guys collaboration, specifically based off of the most popular Toy Story films. So as a result, we're about to be getting not only Woody, but Buzz Lightyear, or what I meant to say was that we're about to be getting both Woody and Buzz Lightyear outfits in Fall Guys. So yeah, I guess that's about it. So yeah, I'm afraid we got to end things up at this point right here, folks. So join me next time for more Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers. It's that we're about to begin the next trial. So thank you, Coco Bandicoot, for able to join me for this video. I know it seems kind of feels a bit wishy-washy for commentary, but I'm sure you won't mind, don't you think? Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. So I'll see you guys at some point soon. Yep, I'll see you guys then. Later, fellas.